Okay, so I just went through the different categories of protected areas. And multi-use areas I wanted to talk about in particular. These are the fifth and sixth categories under those IUCN designations. They're often larger than other categories and contain many or most of the original species. They connect to surround to other protected areas, and they're more likely to benefit people in general. There was a study done, and they found that all types of protected areas were more likely to have a positive impact on the local people than a negative impact. And multi-use areas, these fifth and sixth categories, were more likely to have positive conservation and socioeconomic outcomes. So when we incorporate sustainable use and build protected areas in ways that benefit the local people, as opposed to taking land away from local people and not letting them in for conservation, they're finding that these multi-use areas have more positive outcomes overall for both conservation and for people. This shows the percentage of the world's terrestrial ecoregions that are protected. So you can see the lighter colors are closer to 0%, whereas the darkest green are greater than 17%. So you can see that we have a lot of protected areas in Alaska, in the northern areas. There are large expanses of Africa, and a lot of the Amazon is more than 17% protected. This looks at the world's marine ecoregions and the percent of them that are protected, and the darker colors are greater than 10%. And so you can see that our coastline is in the greater than 10% category. Some countries do a really, really good job with this. So you can see Australia all the way around is greater than 10% protected. And you can see there are some other islands that are their waters are very highly protected, including, this is Hawaii right here. So almost all countries have at least one protected area. About 15.4% of land is in some kind of protection, and that's approximately equal to the amount of land that we have in agriculture. It varies a lot by country, so there are some countries that have less than 1% of their country protected. Examples include Syria, Iraq, Haiti, and Uruguay. And some have as high as 54%. These do tend to be smaller countries, but Venezuela is not super tiny. But so Venezuela, Slovenia, and Monaco have over 50% of their land area in protected areas. In the United States, we have 14% of our land protected and 12% of our marine habitats. So you can see that that goal I mentioned before, the 30% by 2030. These numbers may not be totally up to date, but you can see we have a little ways to go to get to 30%. So where do you think the world's largest park is? Hint, it's not somewhere where a lot of people live. The answer is Greenland, and it is 970,000 kilometers squared, which is about 3% of the protected areas on the entire planet. Almost nobody lives in Greenland. It's very, very cold, and there is a lot of ice. But so this is a picture from that park. And this is a map showing Greenland is a huge island, and so you can see that this much adds up to a lot of land. 30% of our protected areas are in categories 1 through 4, which have the most strict conservation requirements. This shows the amount of area in different types of protected areas, including both marine and terrestrial. And you can see that all of the categories have been increasing since 1950. And there have been really the largest increases in the purple, which is national parks, and then the green, which is sustainable use areas. So I wanted to talk about marine protected areas by themselves They're have about 3.4% of the total marine environment protected and 10.9% of the territorial seas near the coastlines. So that just means that the oceans that are kind of territories of specific countries, not just the open ocean. There is some pushback from the fishing industry. However, marine protected areas have been shown to be very beneficial for nursery grounds for commercial species. So by having some areas that aren't fished, it can actually boost the amount of fish overall. So it may limit where the fishing industry can fish, but by having these places that act as refuges, they kind of spill over into the surrounding areas, meaning that the fish populations are larger in general. There's a lot of evidence that marine protected areas also improve marine water quality, which is also good for the fishing industry. Most marine protected areas are small, and the largest is the Pacific Remote Islands Monument, which is 2 million kilometers squared, and that is in the United States. And it's out in the Pacific Ocean around some islands that we own. This shows the existing monument. In green is what President George W. Bush designated, and then President Obama expanded it dramatically. And those two presidents are responsible for why we have the largest marine protected area in the world. And so they all surround atolls or small islands. And these are really important islands. You can see Hawaii is here, that are near Hawaii, that have important seabird populations, but also really important coral reef. And we talked about the high biodiversity that is in coral reefs, and so this protects a lot of biodiversity. I actually know somebody that has worked on the Wake Atoll on seabirds, and so these are really important for seabird populations. I just wanted to show you some of the pictures of what's being protected in our large marine protected area here. And so this just shows some pictures of some of the coral reefs. They're of amazingly pristine quality with very high biodiversity, as I said.